record. Okay, so colonial government. If you remember, what was the first example of representative government in the colonies? It's a 3-word deal.
What's the first letter?
An H.
What's the second letter?
An O.
House of Representatives.
Close.
Oh.
House of are the first.
Constitution.
House of are the first 2 words.
Legislator. House of Legislator. House
Nope.
House of
Burgesses.
Principal. Oh.
House of
Protected.
Burgesses. It was the first representative legislature out of the colony of Virginia. Okay. And then we had other colonies as they formed, they got their own self-rule as well, all right? So they're basing, these colonists are basing the governments that they're creating, the local governments that they're creating in the colonies, they're basing it off what they know. Does that make sense? Like if you were to create something new, wouldn't you base that design off? Janica, what are you singing?
Who said I was singing?
Your lips were moving around, your head was shaking like this.
Who are you watching? I'm not doing that.
I have it recording, Janica. And then evidence was already there. Okay. But they're going to base, if we're going to do something new, we're going to base it off what we know. And so a lot of the colonial governments are going to be based off what they were used to in Great Britain. Okay. Now, if you were a colonist, you came over from Great Britain to a Great British colony, would you still consider yourself to be an English citizen?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, let's say the US decides to colonize the moon and then later on Mars. Let's say we do that. And you sign up for one of those missions. You get sent to Mars. Would you consider yourself still a citizen of the United States?
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of the colonists, all the British colonists still considered themselves citizens of Great Britain. And therefore, they were used to all these rights that they had while they were citizens of Great Britain, okay? So let's see, a couple principles of English government. The idea that there was protected rights. So these are rights that the government cannot take away, that everybody has them. And as time has grown on, we've added to these rights. Okay, we have not taken it, we've added to them. So some of the things that we have today that we say the government cannot take away are freedom of speech. Yes? Can the government infringe on our freedom of speech?
No.
Can they infringe on our right to privacy?
No.
No. Do we have a right to privacy?
Yes.
Yeah, that comes from the Fourth Amendment that prevents the government from searching our homes without a warrant. Okay, the fact that they can't search our homes without a warrant gives us an inferred right to privacy. Okay. And we have some others. So protected rights are rights that the government cannot take away, and over time these rights have grown. They're not set in stone. Okay. And then representative legislatures. We like having a say in our own government. Okay. Some years more than others. This past presidential election, the voter turnout seems to be around 70% voter turnout for this past election. That is really high. In past presidential elections, we've hovered in the 65% range, and then on non-presidential election years, we're closer down to the 50s and 40s in voter participation. But we like having our voters. So these are rights that the colonists, because they viewed themselves as British citizens, they said they would view any potential violation of these rights as a cause for breaking away and declaring independence. Okay, so keep these rights in mind. We have certain rights as British citizens, and we get to have a say in our own government. Okay. So this started, the whole British rights started. It used to be that the King of England had the final say. Like, whatever they said goes. Over time, the people in England decided, they formed a parliament, and over time, parliament started taking power away from the king. Okay. The first document to limit the power of the king was this document that you see in front of you, called the Magna Carta. A couple years ago, the Magna Carta, it's in a museum in England, in a church in England, but a couple years ago, it was on loan to the Houston Museum of Natural Science. And so I went to that exhibit and took these pictures that we'll see. Okay, so some things that the Magna Carta prevented, and this is all the way back in 1215 AD, so almost over 800 years ago. Okay. It prevented cruel or unjust punishment or treatment. We've taken that and transformed it to prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment. Okay, that's our 8th Amendment, cruel and unusual punishment. And over time, that definition of cruel and unusual has changed, right? Do we hang people anymore?
No.
No. We still execute people, but even that seems like it's on its way out. There goes Janica dancing again. Okay, but it seems like it's on its way out because people's attitudes toward it have changed. Okay, and then the other thing that the Magna Carta did was declare that no one is above the law. Okay, even the king. So if the king breaks the law, the king needs to be punished. Okay, this is a ideal that we have kept today. No one is above the law, even the president and members of Congress. If they break the law, they need to be held accountable. So representative government, again, the government that we have in the US is based off Britain's government. Our US Congress is kind of a mirror of British Parliament. Okay, so British Parliament had 2 chambers. The first one is the House of Lords, and those were chosen from England's noble class. Okay, the US equivalent to the House of Lords, anyone want to take a guess?
Is it House of Representatives?
It would not
Or
be.
the Senate?
It would be the Senate.
Nice.
Okay, It's the Senate, because House of Lords, that seems, when you hear that, House of Lords, does that seem like pretty like high and mighty? Pretty prestigious? Yeah. In the US, the Senate is the more prestigious part of Congress. Senators are elected for 6-year terms. Our House of Representatives are only elected for 2. To be a member of the House of Representatives, you have to be at least 25 years old. To be a member of the Senate, you have to be 30. So it's a little bit more prestigious. The second chamber of Parliament was the House of Commons. That's more like our House of Representatives. And that just sounds more common, right? It's the House of Commons. Okay. So there's been this struggle throughout history between the Parliament and the King. Who ultimately won that power struggle?
The kings.
Not the kings. Think about
Parliament.
Queen Elizabeth today, the royal family today. Do they hold much power in Britain?
No.
No, they're just a figurehead, right? And a lot of British people, some of them, like, I guess a lot of them still like the British because of tradition. But there are a good number of British people that are saying, let's get rid of the monarchy because they're essentially doing nothing and they're being paid by tax dollars, right? So trying to get rid. But the Parliament ultimately won this. Okay. So one thing that came out of it was the English Bill of Rights. This further limited the power of the monarchy. Gave more power to Parliament. And this transfer, the adoption of the British English Bill of Rights was called the Glorious Revolution. And it's called that because it was a revolution of, like, it was a massive power transfer without bloodshed, right? Which was good. So it further limited the power of the monarchy. Let's see, it said, okay, the monarchy could not do any of the following without Parliament's consent. It could not suspend Parliament laws. So if Parliament passed something, the monarchy could not just say, I don't care. I'm going to ignore it. Okay. The monarchy could also not impose taxes without Parliament's consent. Now that's really, really big for the American Revolution. Because if the monarchy can't impose taxes without Parliament's consent, and the colonists are not represented in Parliament, could the monarchy impose taxes on the colonists? What do y'all think? Should the monarchy be able to impose taxes on the colonists if the colonists are represented by Parliament?
Wait, can you repeat that one more time?
Okay, so the colonists are not represented by Parliament. Here, it says the monarchy cannot impose taxes without Parliament's consent. Okay. If the colonists aren't represented by Parliament and the king chooses to tax the colonists, is that tax just?
No.
Yeah.
I would say it is because if people aren't represented
It is.
in Parliament.
Okay.
So
Should the colonists be represented by Parliament?
Yes.
They're still British citizens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They should, right? Let's go back to that thought, like we're colonizing Mars. Okay. Let's say the president decides to tax you because you live on Mars. but you're not represented in Congress. Think that's fair?
No, I don't think that's fair.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the feeling that starts to promulgate, that starts to expand in the colonies from this limitation right here. And then the final one is the monarchy cannot raise an army without Parliament's consent. Okay. So that's where the colonists were coming from. That's what they were used to. They come over to the New World and they start governing themselves. Okay. They either live in a charter colony. So this is a colony that has been granted the ability to exist by the king or by the monarchy, and they can, they can operate within some rules from that. You have proprietary colonies, which are the purpose of making money. Okay, and so the owners set the rules there. And then you have the royal colonies that are under the direct control of the king. Here, so I can see everything, okay? So here, Great Britain would appoint the governor of these royal colonies and the upper house, similar to the House of Lords, and the colonists would elect the lower house here, okay, the common. So that really did lend itself to giving more power to the unelected governor than to the people. And so this starts to rub people the wrong way. Okay. And as people get annoyed, they start airing their grievances at the local level. And that really starts, these local town meetings are really what start people to entertain the idea of breaking away. Okay. But it's still taking a long time for this idea to take hold. Okay. The economic policies that England imposed on the colonies did not help matters. So they essentially operated under the system where it's called mercantilism. And the idea was to export, to sell stuff to other countries more than you buy from other countries. Okay. So when you sell something to another country, it's called an export. It's leaving, it's exiting your country. When you buy something from another country, it's called an import. Okay, you're bringing it in to this country. And so if you export, if you sell more than you buy, your country can start hoarding lots and lots of gold and silver. And so this was the economic game that the English government was trying to play. It was kind of a monopoly, a world-based monopoly type deal. Okay. Because of that, England, being an island, really, really depended on the colonies, because the colonies had a lot more resources than England did. And so if the colonies could take those resources, send them to England, it would technically not be an import because it's going from one English group to another English group. But England could then take those raw materials and transform them into products to sell everywhere else. Okay. So the monarchy and parliament are kind of jealous. They're a jealous bunch. What do y'all think of the word jealousy? What do y'all think of when I say the word jealousy?
I think like people like I mean, we all have jealousy in us. Like, we can't help it. But when I hear jealousy, when you're talking about this, I think that I don't know. I don't know.
Hmm.
I'm not quite sure.
Okay. If you are in a relationship and one partner is really jealous, does the jealous partner like the other partner to hang out among other people?
No.
Yeah. Is that necessarily good for a healthy relationship?
No.
So England's kind of jealous of what they saw was their partner, the colonies. They only wanted the English colonies to trade with England, not with any other country. So in the 1650s, England passed the Navigation Acts. And so under the Navigation Acts, the colonists were forced, they had no choice but to sell their goods to England. Okay. What do you think that does to the price that they're able to sell their goods? Does it guarantee them the highest possible price?
No.
No. In fact, if you know that you have to sell, like Jaden, let's say you have to sell something. Give me something that you want to sell.
Car.
Okay, car. Let's see. So you're a car dealership, all right? You run a car dealership. Now, if I say, Jaden, you can't sell to anybody except me and the people that I say you can sell to, are you going to get the maximum price out of that car?
No.
No. In fact, you're going to be forced to sell it at a much lower price, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you want to sell these cars, and if you're limited to only selling it to one person, you're going to have to cut the price a lot. And so that's kind of what the colonists did. They weren't getting top dollar. Do you think they enjoyed that? No.
No.
Curiosity, some anger, frustration. Yeah, right. So some pros of the Navigation Act. Hey, at least you had a place to sell them. It was guaranteed, but you weren't going to get the highest price. So if you weren't going to get the highest price, what industry or what profession do you think developed? It's kind of the Han Solo profession. What was Han Solo?
He was a character from Star Wars.
Yes. What did he do before he?
He was a pilot.
Okay, he was a pilot that did what?
Rode a spaceship.
He was a smuggler.
He was a smuggler. He smuggled things in his spaceship that he piloted. Okay. And so that's kind of what happened here, right? The colonists were not legally allowed to sell their goods to other countries. But if other countries were offering a higher price than what England was offering, smuggling to other countries started picking up. Okay. How many of y'all know who have heard the name John Hancock? Okay, what's he famous for? We actually use his name as a verb now. What is John Hancock famous for?
He is famous because he is the first signer of the Declaration of Independence.
He is the first signer of the Declaration of Independence. And did he sign it in a very small, like modest font? No. He was like, I believe he made some comments similar to, I want the British
If
to
he-
be able to read my signature
The-
far away.
Is he the is he the dude that's wearing like the gray uneven wig? Like that's like
So I do not, I'm not that old, Janica.
no, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the dude in the picture.
I know, I was not there, so I don't know. But John Hancock signed his name really big and elaborate. And so now in this country, one of the things we refer to is if we ask for someone's signature, we say, hey, can you give me your John Hancock? Right? Talking about signature. But he was a smuggler. Okay. And so that's where he made a lot of his money, by smuggling things. Okay. And then we're done. Yay. There was something I wanted to, well, we'll cover these next ones when we get back from the break. Okay. Cool. But go ahead and start, look over lessons 3 and 4, mainly lesson 3. Okay. This, I don't think we'll even really cover it. I'd rather get straight into the French and Indian War. So, all right, guys. Any questions? Janica, do you want to do karaoke for us?
Bye.
You want to do karaoke for us, Janica?
I think I'll pass.
Really? Okay.